What's up, nerds? So the MCU has done the craziest thing ever with its most recent movie, Fantastic Four: First Steps. And it occurs to me that a lot of you out there don't realize just how crazy it actually is. You're wondering, well, Danny, what's the crazy thing that they did with this movie? Is it actually Galactus? No, I don't mean Galactus. But there's another cosmically powered being in this film you've probably overlooked. I'm talking about the baby. That's right, Sue and Reed Richards' baby. This kid isn't just overpowered, he's beyond Omega level classification. A universe shaper mutant who makes gods sweat. But how did this adorable bouncing baby boy grow up to be Marvel's secret architect? Strap in, nerds, because I am about to tell you. I'm about to make you an expert on all things Franklin Richards. Comics and powered by the Red 5 Network. For more, visit red5.bio.link. Honestly, this is probably the most difficult breakdown I have ever done. What's up, nerds? Welcome back to the channel. For those who are new, my name is Danny, and this is Comics and today it's Comics and Cosmetics. This show is where I break down your favorite comic book characters, TV shows, movies, what have you, while doing my makeup at the same time. And if you are interested in the products that I'm using, check the description below, because I have done the hard work of linking every single thing that I'm using on my face down there for you. Before we go any further, I hope you have done me the absolute solid of hitting that like button, subscribing if you are new, and ringing the notification bell to get notified whenever I'm back with even more of this nerdy nonsense. Maybe consider becoming a member of the channel. With that being said, let's get in there. This is probably the most difficult breakdown I've ever had to write. In fact, I've spent the last several weeks reading so many Fantastic Four comics, watching videos that other people have made, and writing and rewriting my breakdown by hand and typing out multiple times so I make sure I get it right, because Franklin is a wild and crazy character. You know how comics love to be rebooted and rebooted again. In the case of Franklin, they basically lean into that and use that to their advantage, so to speak. And you'll see what I'm talking about later. But this kid is so powerful. He is the most powerful human mutant, human mutate in the entire Marvel universe. Why did I call him human mutant, human mutate? You'll find out. Just keep that in your back pocket. Franklin Benjamin Richards is the wildly overpowered reality warping son of Dr. Reed Richards and Sue Storm, so Mr. Fantastic and the Invisible Woman. He's often described as a universe shaper and a mutant with power beyond Omega level classification, which basically means he can do anything he wants. He first appeared in Fantastic Four Comics Annual Number 6 in November of 1968. He was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby when Stan was like, well, you know, Sue Storm and Reed Richards are now married. It only makes sense that the natural evolution of that relationship would be that they have children. Now, unlike other mutants who develop their powers and abilities when they hit puberty, Franklin's developed in the womb. in the womb. Like he was moving things and giving his mama premonitions before he was even born. Like it was a whole problem. I mean, this created a huge ordeal for his parents. You know, his father had to make many difficult decisions when it came to raising him. And that caused problems in his marriage to Franklin's mother, Sue Storm, who was like, "How dare you?" But I mean, she kind of got it, but at the same time, it's like, I just don't feel right about this. What didn't she feel right about? We'll get to that. I mean, seriously, you have this child who has these absolutely immense and unstable abilities. Reed wanted to try and prevent them from interfering with Franklin having a normal childhood. Like, imagine having a toddler that could fart you into the next county or turn your house into a giant donut. I mean, I had a kid who would take his diaper off at night and paint the walls with his poo. I had to duct tape that diaper on. I might be open to the idea of discussing mental blocks, okay? I might. Like, Franklin was going to be something totally new for comic books. He was very much going to be geared towards the younger readers, and he was going to be a character that the readers could grow along with. They were going to grow up with Franklin because at the time, Marvel Comics actually happened in real time. They published in real time. Time passed in real time. It happened in the present time. The characters aged. Mm-hmm. Remember that. Does that actually play out as planned? We'll see. So before Franklin even born, like I said earlier, there were things that were noticeably different than any other normal pregnancy. By this time, the Fantastic Four were the Fantastic Four. They had gone into space, they had encountered the cosmic radiation, and Sue Storm had developed her ability to turn invisible, become the Invisible Girl, developed her abilities with the force fields, developing the force fields. Mr. Fantastic could stretch. Ben Grimm was the Thing, and Johnny Storm, Sue Storm's brother, was the Human Torch. There were some concerns like, is this kid going to, be affected by that? And Sue's powers on the fritz and having these crazy dreams, yeah, we think it might. So Reed, who's obviously very concerned about this, does some tests. He runs some tests because that's who he is as a person. He's a scientist who runs tests. And he discovers that the cosmic radiation that changed them was still in Sue's blood. Like, duh. No shit, Sherlock. You're the smartest man alive. Like, really? The thing that changed her and made her go invisible and make force fields is still in her blood? Shock. But it's still in her blood, and therefore the babies. And it's causing this huge problem. It's made her unstable. The energies are like battling inside her. And it's discovered later, kind of retconned much later in the comics, that Franklin the fetus is kind of inadvertently feeding off of Sue's life force in a sense. So these unbalanced energies are all inside Sue. And Reed is worried that if he doesn't fix it soon, that Sue and the baby will not survive. Reed discovers what can help, this antimatter cosmic radiation that's found in the negative zone. He's got to go get it, right? Negative zone is this very old, constantly in the state of entropy place that's ruled by these warlords. And it's filled with all these crazy, very strange alien looking creatures. Normal humans cannot survive there. It's toxic to normal humans. And the lord of all the negative zone is this bug robot looking thing known as a nihilist. And a nihilist only really cares about immortality. He just wants to live forever. And how he does that is by killing other living beings and then kind of transferring that living energy to himself via this device known as the cosmic control rod, which he wears on his chest. So because it's a dangerous trip, difficult to get to this place, Reed has these special fancy harnesses made for him and Johnny and Ben. And while Sue is on bed rest, the three of them hop on over to the negative zone. Like as soon as they land in the negative zone, some of Annihilus's scavengers find them, scoop them up and take them to Annihilus, and Annihilus wants to experiment on them. He's never seen anything like them before. He's like, what are these? Poke, poke, poke. Well, as soon as Reed spots the cosmic control rod on his chest, he's like, that's it. That's what I need. I need that thing on his chest and I can save Sue. So they knock out Annihilus, take all his stuff, and try to take off, but they don't have their harnesses. This cracks me up. Listen, this is what I love about the early comics, like especially Silver Age, because they were pretty much written for kids and they get pretty trite and silly. Bunch of explosions and fights. Craziness later, Annihilus is chasing them and they're like, listen, we need our harnesses back. And Flynn realizes what I really need is the cosmic antimatter energy inside the cosmic control rod. And it just so happens I've got this little glass tube conveniently right here in my pocket. If I could get the energy out of the cosmic control rod and into this tube, like we could trade the device for our harnesses and we could Vominos on out of here. And Annihilus, like I said, he's chasing them like they're both on these rocks flying through, and Annihilus pops up and he's like, oh, but you can't. There's a nozzle on the end right there. You can get it out. It's right there. Oh, convenient. Annihilus actually helps them get the energy out of the cosmic control rod, and they trade the cosmic control rod back to Annihilus, and he gives them the harnesses so they can leave the negative zone. And I've seen a lot of breakdowns about Franklin Richards over the last several weeks. And every single one of them, all of them, except one breakdown, specifically says that he specifically needed the device to fix Sue. And that is not true. Like, that is not what happened in the comics. And you can look that up for yourself. So, in fact, this breakdown, I'm going to give you as best a cliff notes as I possibly can, because if I was to actually sit here and give you every single detail about Franklin Richards, we would literally be here for 4 hours. I am probably longer. I'm not kidding. And folks, I just do not have that in me, and you don't have it in you to sit and watch me for 4 hours. So yeah, you can judge for yourself if I'm telling you the truth. Check my work. Read the comics. I highly encourage you read comics. Read comics every day. Read them for funsies. Read them to check my work. I don't care what reason you have to read the comic books, but seriously, read the comic books. So he did not actually need the cosmic control rod device to fix Sue. He needed the energy inside the cosmic control rod to balance Sue. So he gets back just in time, Sue's in labor, and fixes Sue, balances the energy inside of her just in time for her to give birth to their bouncing baby boy. And a few issues later, they name their son Franklin after Sue's father, who actually gave his life to save them, and after their best friend and colleague, Ben Grimm, who also happily accepted being the baby's godfather. Now, Sue Storm was never going to be a stay-at-home mom. She is absolutely 1,000% a mom first. She's a mom and a wife. She's family-oriented first. When it came time for Sue to return to her work as the Invisible Girl, they needed to find a nanny. And who better to nanny your precious bundle of joy than an ancient, well-dressed, I might add, cat-loving witch who resides on Whisper Hill, who goes by the name of Agatha Harkness. That's right. Agatha Harkness's first appearance in comic books was as Franklin Richards' nanny. And if you want to see that story, that breakdown, I'll link that below. It's on my channel as well. That's like the third breakdown I ever ever did. Like, who else is going to be better to nanny a baby that can project his dreams or fart his whole world out of existence than this unknowably ancient witch? She knew who and what Franklin was, and she had already planned to be of help. The two ended up bonding like right away, and they ended up becoming quite inseparable. For the longest time in Marvel Comics, Franklin's powers were entirely attributed to the cosmic control rod, or the energy inside the cosmic control rod. He was going to grow up to be a second Galactus, and that doesn't necessarily change, but the source of his power and his power levels change all of the time, like all of the time. And his relationship with Galactus becomes pretty intricate and intrinsic. We'll talk more about that later. As a small child, though, in the early comics, like in the 70s and the early 80s, his powers were pretty basic, and they would show up kind of randomly in bursts. Like in Fantastic Four number 130, he uses his psionic powers to subconsciously alert the unconscious Ben Grimm that the Frightful Four were attacking the Fantastic Four and trying to kidnap them. Like, they had knocked out Ben Grimm, but little toddler Franklin wakes him up. For years, that's exactly how it would go. Just those brief moments of little bursts of abilities. It wouldn't be until later that Franklin's powers and his role in the Marvel Universe would grow exponentially. And with the way the writers would reboot series, blink things in and out, that they would really change how they used Franklin, not just as a character, but as a plot device. Now, his childhood went about as smoothly as one would expect the superpowered child of the most famous superpowered couple in the world would go. He was kidnapped multiple times, attempted to be kidnapped like several more. Some of the people that kidnapped him were Kraven the Hunter, Doctor Doom, Annihilus, and Mephisto. Annihilus was still a tad butthurt from Reed kind of crashing into his home turf and basically ransoming his cosmic control rod. And he still stole stuff from him. Like, Reed, Johnny, and Ben crash into the negative zone, steal the energy from his cosmic control rod, and then bounce. Annihilus was like, listen, I'm going to get you back. I'm going to tag you back. And he does. Annihilus shows up into their universe and proceeds to up. He kidnaps little Franklin, and basically, by way of this cosmic ray gene transmuter, he prematurely unleashes the full potential of Franklin's psionic abilities. He basically turns him into a giant ray gun. And when the Fantastic Four show up to rescue him, the energy that is unleashed is so immense and uncontrollable, it threatens to kill every living thing in the solar system. So Reed feels like he is justified and has no choice but to shoot his own son with this experimental antimatter weapon and puts his son in a coma. Now, Sue, as Franklin's mom, is not too thrilled about this. She feels like there could have been another way to handle this situation. I mean, everything in the universe was going to die, and there really wasn't a whole lot of time. So don't think Reed had much of a choice, but also as a mom, I can kind of see why she would be so upset. Her son was in a coma for months. Now, this is me from the future, which is pretty appropriate if you ask me for a Franklin Richards breakdown. They didn't tell you how he woke up from the coma. Ultron 7 is how he woke up. Ultron 7 attacks, and he puts out this extremely powerful psychic blast, so powerful that it wakes Franklin Richards up from his coma. It startles Franklin awake, and just like any other toddler who gets startled, he has a tantrum, and this tantrum was so powerful it destroyed Ultron 7. Crazy. The next chapter in Franklin's life takes on Marvel's devil and accidental premature adulthood. Was Franklin Richards the catalyst that allowed for the birth of Scarlet Witch's children, Billy and Tommy? You tell me in the comments below. So Reed had created Herbie, humanoid experimental robot, B-type integrated electronics. I know it doesn't really roll off the tongue. That's why they just said Herbie. They liked the name Herbie. Okay, they liked the name Herbie, and they had to come up with a reason to call this robot Herbie. Herbie was pretty much a lab assistant for Reed, but also a companion and a babysitter for Franklin. And he was supposed to also kind of keep an eye out on Franklin's mutant powers. Reed was working in the lab, not quite sure what Johnny was doing. Sue was doing an interview with this absolute harpy, Barbara Walker, who is, I mean, just doing what harpies do and trying to make Sue look like being a mom is a terrible thing for women to do. Like, wow, eat a Barbara. It just really... This is Fantastic Four number 245. Any Fantastic Four nerd is going to tell you this is one of the best Fantastic Four comics out there, especially when it comes to Franklin, because this is the first time that his reality warping powers are on display. The first time we really see him use his powers is when he wakes up Ben Grimm. But the first time he uses his big boy powers, he uses the reality warping powers, is in Fantastic Four number 245. So this is a wild one, okay? Sue Storm is doing this television interview. Reed is in the lab. Johnny is doing Johnny things. And Ben is kind of babysitting Franklin, but he's like not doing a very good job because he's not in the room with him. He's left him with Herbie and he's kind of tossed him a Rubik's Cube. Like, here you go, play with this with the TV on. Something my mom used to call the electronic babysitter. Yeah. Like, this kid is, I don't know, 3 or 4 years old, and Ben's like, here, have a Rubik's Cube. Because that's what preschoolers play with. That's what a 3-year-old plays with, Rubik's Cubes. So here's little Franklin playing with the Rubik's Cube. And obviously, he's getting frustrated with it. He, like, kind of reality warps it into working. Like, I was getting frustrated, but I made it work. And then the TV, he's got Leave It to Beaver on, and Wally says to him, you know, when are you gonna grow up? And the second Franklin hears that, like, subconsciously something snaps in his brain, like, yeah, I want to grow up. And then Herbie like is like, warning, warning, warning. There's this huge explosion, like blows up. And then in the aftermath of this explosion, Franklin, the 3-year-old, is gone. And in his place stands this tall, gorgeous, Jesus-looking, long blonde hair, long blonde beard dude in Franklin's ripped up shorts. Like, he grew into the clothes and ripped him up. He's just standing there like, oh, shit. When this happens, his understanding of the physics of the universe, his understanding of his powers themselves completely unlocked. He has access to the full potential of his abilities. However, he has no idea who he is, how he got there, where he is, nothing. No personal information whatsoever. It's wiped from his mind. So, of course, when this happens, finally people come to investigate. Like, Ben's like, whoa, what happened? What happened? Grown-up Franklin is super confused and he wants answers. And as soon as Ben and Reed come up to him like, who the fuck are you? What are you doing here? Grown-up Franklin's like, yeah, who am I? What am I? Tell me who I am. But they don't know who he is. They only know Franklin as a little boy. They don't know what to tell him. They're just like, oh, you tell me, homie. I don't know who you are. So they obviously attack him. I mean, they're used to people trying to break into the Baxter building to try and kidnap. I mean, obviously, Reed, you need to work on your security protocols because they suck. They cannot defeat this dude. Like, he takes them out. But when he does, he reaches into their minds trying to find clues, answers to who he is, because he thinks they are purposely hiding that information from him. But of course, they don't know who the fuck he is. Again, they know him as a little boy, so he can't find the information he's looking for. He doesn't know he was just a little boy. Sue, she finishes her interview and she heads back home. When she gets to the Baxter building, she sees that the whole thing is completely locked down. She can't get in. She's like, what is going on? So she has to use her powers to basically float up to the top with a force field and break in. She finds the unconscious bodies of her husband and Ben Grimm. Here's voices, so she goes and she turns herself invisible, shifts in viz, and follows the voices. And this leads her to an open door, and she sees this tall blonde stranger holding her brother by the throat, and he's like in full flame. So Sue is watching this go down. She's like, who is this guy? Why did he, I mean, how can he hold Johnny? What has happened, and she doesn't realize it, is that he has just gone into Johnny's mind and searched for any information about himself, couldn't find it, so he wipes Johnny's mind and drops him to the ground unconscious. And Sue's like, holy f-. As she stands there aghast in this ajar door, grown-up Franklin looks over there and notices her, and she's like, oh, he can see me when I'm invisible, and she like takes off. And that should have been her first red flag, because Bebe Franklin could always sense her when she was invisible. He chases her through the Baxter building, and I mean through the Baxter building, and it's like it doesn't even matter to him. He's just gliding through these walls and doors and stuff like they don't even exist to him. She sees him do this. She sees him like go through walls and she still tries to jump behind him and throw her trench coat over his head and then tie it off at the neck with her belt and then like Scooby-Doo run away. And he just kind of like, really? And the coat melts down over his head and becomes just like a snazzy cloak. On to Sue's plan B, which is she throws up a big old force field, which this guy, grown-up Franklin, kind of looks at like a curiosity. He's like, oh, what's this? And he reaches up and touches it and then starts to push through it. And this causes this extremely painful feedback for Sue. Well, after another explosion and more chasing, Sue makes it outside of the building. Eventually, grown-up Franklin follows her. He gets to the top of the Baxter building and just kind of gently levitates down to the street level like some blonde Jesus figure. Grown-up Franklin just grabs Sue by the shoulders and he's like, show me who I am. Tell me, why is there a hole in my head? Why is my head so empty? I feel like I shouldn't be empty. Why is it empty? Tell me what I need to know. This whole time that this has been going on, this whole chase and everything, Sue has been thinking to herself, there's something oddly familiar about this guy, and I can't quite put my finger on it. Something about the way he talks, his speech patterns, his phrasing, just something really, really, really familiar about it. While he's got her by the shoulders and he's basically shaking her and yelling at her, like, tell me everything, it all kind of hits her suddenly, like horrifyingly. She realizes she's looking at him so close that he pretty much looks like Reed, but with her coloring, and that the way he's talking is very childlike. She just kind of stutters like, Franklin. And as soon as she says that, as soon as she says his name, the shock of this, like he's being hit with this wave of memory, it makes him stumble back, like he can't hold himself upright. He gets all of his memories back and he kind of looks up at her. He's like, Mommy? Suddenly he's just super childlike. Like he has all this understanding of the universe and physics, mostly thanks to the fact that he was in his dad's mind. And his dad's a super scientist, but he's very much still the mind of a child. When this happens, Reed, Johnny, and Ben wake up and they come running out to the street level. And Sue immediately explains to them, wait, It's Franklin. I don't know how, but this is our child. And Franklin recounts what he remembers up until this point. Well, talking to his father, they come to the conclusion that he is not emotionally ready to manage these kinds of powers, like this level of power. He's still just an itty bitty little boy. It's not something he is capable of handling like you think. They're also worried about how to get him back to his actual childlike self, because Reed is worried that stuffing this amount of power back down into his tiny child body would cause it to explode like little Herbie did. And, we don't want that. Franklin says that he's pretty sure he knows what to do. He just needs a minute. He wants to go talk to Ben. So he goes over to Ben. He tells him that he wants to heal him. He wants to fix him. See, Reed tried to cure him, which Reed tried to cure him so many times, and it always goes wrong. I mean, really, it was just Marvel's way of trying out new designs for the Thing, and nobody ever liked them. This is really the first time that Franklin is used by Marvel writers as a plot device. Franklin goes over to Ben and he tells him that he wants to fix his father's mistake. And he goes into Ben's head and basically figures out that Ben doesn't really need or really desire to be completely human, because Reed never really truly understood the actual internal character development that occurred with Ben when he became the Thing. There's a lot of stuff that went on. When Franklin goes into his head, he sees what Ben really wants. And then there's this huge flash of light. When the light disappears, Ben Grimm the Thing is back to his OG design, that kind of smooth rock look. And Franklin is back to his child self. Not just his child self, but depowered. No reality warping powers at this time. But also, Reed is like, I think now is a good time to do something called psychic inhibitors. He puts these psychic inhibitors in his son to keep him from doing stuff like that again, and also help him have some semblance of a normal life.
Disney and Kathleen Kennedy are gonna get you!
Stars to Mars.